Hey everybody, it's Francesca Maxime and this is WiseGirl. It is still Thursday, December 1st, and I guess you could call this a bonus WiseGirl. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about the time of year. It is, like I said, the very first day of December, and we are in the full swing of the holiday season, and I think that everybody would pretty much acknowledge that everybody's trying to rush around, get stuff done, do a lot of things for other people, oftentimes hosting people at home, feeding them, doing elaborate decorations, doing elaborate kinds of food preparations and baking, and also buying perhaps gifts or even making gifts for people. So that's great. It's the season of giving. And one of the things that we really want to try to do all year round is to be generous with others and to really have compassion. It's more of a generosity of heart and a generosity of spirit than it is necessarily a generosity of doing. Because remember, part of this whole practice and this whole idea is to really be able to be with yourself more, because you know that there's nothing wrong with you. We don't have to run away from ourselves. We don't have to get bored and restless and fidgety when we sit and meditate, or when we sit quietly and there's nobody around and nothing to do. We don't need to go and open the refrigerator or zone out to the television. We could actually just sit quietly with ourselves, right? That's an option. But it really is only an option, I think, when you've been able to release some of the negative concepts that we hold on to about ourselves, some of the negative stories that we often hold on to about ourselves that are often based on our conditioning. But we can release them by resting in the fact that we know that we're okay. So just try it. Perhaps I invite you to try it and see if you feel like, what would life be like right now if I just said, you know what, I'm okay just as I am. Just as I am. I don't need to go to the refrigerator and, open the pantry and eat the brownies. I don't need to call this person who was my ex and fill my time by trying to have them come over. I don't need to spend a lot of time in front of the TV, just sort of blanking out, binge watching Netflix. I can actually just kind of sit quietly and kind of get to know myself. It's a terminology that one of my teachers calls tend and befriend, meaning we're not inflicting further damage on ourselves by doing stuff that we know isn't really helpful to us, and we also are allowing ourselves to kind of see what comes up for us when we sit quietly, and that's kind of when we typically get a little uncomfortable. We're sort of like, the stories that are coming up, that I'm not good enough, or I'll always be alone, or whatever, those are bubbling up. Throw those out the window. Notice them, however, but don't judge yourself for having them. And, I would also invite you to just see if you can't let them come and go and pass like clouds in the sky. See if you can hold a little bit more space to just say, wow, I've had that feeling about myself. Where did that come from? Might be a little uncomfortable. My mom always used to treat me this way, or said this about me, or my teacher said that about me, or my dad was this way. But to the degree that those events were in the past and did affect us greatly, but that in the present we can start to try to change the way that we look at things by allowing ourselves to be centered, allowing those thoughts to exist, but not judging ourselves for having them. The more we kind of accept them and they're just sort of there, the more that we can kind of say, oh, guess what? It's just a thought. Like, those people aren't really running my lives in a real way right now. I'm the one who's in charge of me, and I kind of do these dances that, I think I have to do. I may feel like I have to do, but that I don't really have to do in order to please these other people or these other voices that have long since inflicted whatever kinds of, thoughts that they had about us, to us, and on us that we don't have to carry anymore. So we can release ourselves from that, cage of the mind, that prison of the mind, if you will, that we often have about ourselves, and rest in the fact that there's nothing wrong with us. It's okay. We're fine. And that we can also say, I acknowledge that there are certain things about living on this planet and being evolutionarily gone from, the little microbes that we started out as to the human beings that we are now, that haven't always adapted very well. So it takes a little while for our brains to quite literally, physiologically, neurologically catch up, and for our bodies to kind of start to release any trauma or ideas and feelings of self-doubt that we have about ourselves. But the first thing that we can do is just sort of notice them, recognize them, not judge them, look at ourselves with compassion and love, and then just sort of watch those thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. And the more we can do that here in this season of giving, this season of generosity, I want to introduce a new concept to you. Part of what being generous is about, or can be about, is the ability to receive. As I said at the beginning of the video, we're often running around doing things for other people this time of year, and it's really great to remember that every day of every month of every year. But to give yourself the gift of being able to actually receive, to not expect that you're going to get a certain kind of present or a certain kind of treatment, because attaching yourself to expectations that may or may not happen is a pretty surefire way of getting disappointed. It's going to happen sooner or later because that's just the way life is. Nobody to blame for it. But to actually just open yourself up to receiving, it allows the giver to enjoy the idea that they are giving something to you. So when you go to somebody's house and, you'll say, oh, I'm so grateful for being here. I'm a leech, or, you have those kind of thoughts. That's not like really nice for the person who's hosting the dinner or, inviting you over for eggnog or whatever it is. You want to make sure that you're allowing, a deep inner part of you is allowing yourself to feel worthy enough that you can sit with dignity at the table or in their living room or by the fireplace or whatever it is, and just not have to do anything. You don't have to bring anything. You don't have to do anything. Sure, those things are nice and you can, but you don't have to. See what it feels like if you can receive as part of an intention that you set during this season of giving for generosity. See if you can't conceive of how it feels like for you to be the one who does less and receives more, and allows other people to step into the space where they might actually be able or willing to start to do stuff even without you asking. Because sometimes when we step back and we aren't always the active, generous ones always doing everything, you'd be amazed that when we create that kind of space, it gives other people the opportunity to rise to the occasion, oftentimes. And maybe things aren't always done exactly as we would do them. Maybe they're not always the way that we have to have it be. But maybe we can let go of how we have to have it be. And maybe we can just enjoy. And in enjoying and receiving, we're actually giving a huge gift to others and being generous of spirit to others in a way that might be new behavior for us, but might actually bring us a whole new perspective on things. So I'd invite you to consider that during this season of giving and receiving. And again, leave your comments, leave your tweets at Francesca Maxime for WiseGirl on December 1st. Always great to talk to you. Talk to you later. Bye.